We are back at it again for another week of ARTFIGHT 2025 Fossils vs. Crystals. And today's video is brought to you by me being exclusively motivated to draw other folks' D&D characters. So I turned to my list of bookmarked characters and hunted down a collection of 7 lovely D&D builds and backstories to share with you today. And as always, stay tuned till the end of the video to see the beautiful collection of ARTFIGHT attacks that I received since my last video. But with that, let's get into the speed draws. The first character I have the pleasure of sharing with you all today is from our friend EggFriend9000 and is their lizard folk monk Ezra Spectrin. EggFriend drew me one of my favorite D&D NPCs that I've ever created, Isegwin, and also bonus art of Cat just for fun. So you know I had to make sure that I properly revenged those pieces and spent some extra time getting the anatomy just right on some cool Street Fighter Chun-Li inspired posing for this monk character. Ezra is a Wave the Ascendant dragon monk, and her monastic tradition stems from the culture and religions on her home island. She comes from one of a series of small islands, each island being home to a different draconic deity. Although these dragon gods are not well known to the general public, they are very highly revered on each of their respective islands. Closer to the events of the campaign that she was in, a 16 lizard folk years old Ezra, which is about 25 in human years, spent most of her time helping the local grown villagers by doing various chores for them and fishing. Her father had remarried and moved to live with his new husband a while ago, and her mother hadn't wanted anything to do with either of them for some time before that. So with no real close family or friends to turn to, she would spend most of her time in solitude and meditation, grateful for what she had, but quietly wishing that someday an adventurous opportunity would come for her. And it would, in the form of a Triton man by the name of Reese. Reese would turn out to be a protection cleric from a nearby underwater kingdom, and he would visit often, regaling Ezra with the stories of the adventures from the outside world, his tragedies and victories alike. Reese would eventually become one of the few people that Ezra could consider a close friend, but just as suddenly as he arrived, he had to leave for his next adventure, and Ezra's life grew quiet once more, until one day she decided that she had had enough waiting for adventure to find her, and she resolved to find it. And she did find it, specifically in the form of a Triton man by the name of Reese, sitting at the same table as her at a casino, losing all of his gold to her. But not just Reese, also the rest of her party to be a human paladin named Vivi, an elven artificer named Chamaran, and a sentient Kinkajou druid named Honey. And thus the adventures began. Ezra and her party are now adventuring to find a way to save the dragon deities, and Ezra herself has grown and changed a lot from her travels. She now has prophetic dreams, which is incredibly rare for this day and age, and she also has acquired a magical item known as firearms that, believe it or not, cover her hands and arms in fire. And that is all the time that we have for this character, folks, because we are already at the end of speedrun number 1. Once again, this is the beautiful Ezra Spectrin, and I've said it before, I'll say it again, I love a pretty pink D&D character, and a 7'3" strong girl pretty pink D&D character is, ooh, I love it. EggFriend9000 has a bunch of other fantastic characters and can be found on several different social sites. I'll have a couple of the links of the artists in the description below. I would appreciate, and they would appreciate, if you check their work out. Alright, character number 2, we have Asterix, a Fire Genasi rogue of the Thief archetype, belonging to ARTFIGHT user Praying Mantis. Praying Mantis drew me a very elegant calliope that I featured in last week's video, and I just gotta say, it should not be surprising to anyone at all that drawing D&D characters is my comfort zone, and that the collection of characters in this video in particular came pretty easily to me. But Asterix in particular, I felt like I locked in, blacked out, and woke up, and she was just there, which is a good thing. Although Asterix is a Fire Genasi, she wasn't raised around others like her. As a baby, she was dropped off at the entrance of a small and poor village of Tabaxis who raised her in their cultural practices. She ended up having to teach herself how to hone her Genasi fire powers. As a result of essentially being raised by a group of large cats, she has some more cat-like traits about her. She loves to lay and nap in patches of sun, she's a natural at climbing and acrobatics, and when she's spooked, she will hiss and her flame hair will kind of flare up like how a cat's fur stands on end. Asterix is actually not her real name. Her real name is a well-kept secret by a few select people. She has a great many nicknames and pseudonyms that she goes by. However, Asterix is a name that was very intentionally chosen description because it sounds similar to asterisk, which is a symbol that indicates that you're missing some important information and need to seek out the fine print to get the whole truth. Her alignment is chaotic neutral. She abides by her own rules and cares for herself. However, she does have a soft little Robin Hood-esque side to her. She likes to steal from the rich and give to the poor, specifically when the poor are orphaned children and any of the large collection of stray cats that she has unofficially adopted as her own. And also, she's not nearly as nefarious as the wanted posters pasted around town might imply. She loves to give safety advice to newcomers. She loves to let them know what parts of town are a little sketchy to walk through and warns them that they should be more careful. I mean, the advice doesn't come for free, but not that you would know, as you'd walk away from her only to discover much later down the line that you had been pickpocketed. Asterix is a notorious and successful bounty hunter and thief, but she does come across as childish from time to time. Truly, it's really just because she knows what she wants, cough cough money, and she'll do anything to get it, whether that's annoying you until you give in or inciting just a little bit of violence, the latter of which has gotten her kicked out of many a tavern. When Asterix is not busy trying to schmooze her way back into a tavern that she's been banned from, we're going all in on a bet that definitely will get her in trouble. She enjoys journaling, painting, and pottery. And that is it for character number 2, Asterix. I did rush through her story a bit, for which I apologize, but hey, you can find some details and cool stuff on your own by taking a look at Asterix's character sheet, or just in general, checking out the description of this video for Praying Mantis's ARTFIGHT page, or their art as a whole. It is their second year of ARTFIGHT, and honestly, they have a bunch of really beautiful characters that all deserve to have a lot more art made of them. Truly, my favorite part of drawing D&D characters, specifically during ARTFIGHT, is the lore that comes with them. I'm such a sucker for any kind of backstory, and unsurprisingly, it is why my channel is not only a creative outlet for me, but a place where I can do all my lore dumping on people who are not being held hostage. Not that I have ever held anyone hostage to listen to me talk about D&D, I definitely would never do that. So when I was looking for a character to revenge Eldwitched with for their very cute calliope that they made for me, I came across their character, Syra. And I mean, just look at her. You already know that the lore has got to be good. Clearly some stuff has happened to Syra, but let's briefly talk about her life from before she became an undead wild magic sorceress. Syra had very humble origins, growing up on a small farm in a village, learning the magical weave of the world, and pulling from her draconic sorcerer bloodline under the tutelage of her parents. The village was unfortunately located near a portal to the Hells, and strong magic was a necessary skill in order to keep demons at bay. At 16, her parents gave her a magic tome that would strengthen her existing abilities, and on that same day, she managed to expel a demon entirely on her own for the first time, and this was a skill that did not go unnoticed. An angel, accompanied by a group of soldiers, spoke to Syra's parents, and shortly she found herself assigned to the army as the general of the magic division. Time passes and Syra's skills grow, as well as her social circle. She grows close to 2 generals, a ranger and a melee fighter, and the 3 expertly navigate their way through battles, although these battles do seem to get suspiciously increasingly more difficult to win, even in spite all of the training and planning that they do ahead of time. A lot happens from here. Syra loses an arm, she has a short-lived custody of a demon named Little Gremlin, she develops feelings for the strong blonde general of the melee fighters division, who is named Ophelia, and in the midst of an important battle, she realizes that the army, particularly that strange angel, is corrupt, and if she's to follow this course, she is going to be led to her demise. So she and Ophelia run. They find a quiet cottage, adopt cats, get married with wedding bands that Syra carves out of a stag's antler, and live secretly and quietly, looking over their shoulders for those that are coming to hunt them down. And the past catches up, disguised as an old member of the army trying to seek friendship, but is actually an acid-tipped arrow plunged into Syra's side that would take her to her final breath in the arms of her wife, Ophelia. And here we find Syra, risen again by an elderly necromancer, looking for someone to help her keep her potion shop organized. Syra's memories are nothing but vague flashes of light and blonde hair, and her magic has taken on a wild, uncontrollable, unfamiliar shape. She slowly attempts to rebuild her life, her independence, and her memories. But because that is the end of this speed draw, unfortunately, this is where I have to leave you with Syra's story. Y'all don't even get to know about Syra's party or the chicken cults, plural. Actually, the most heartbreaking part of this is that Syra doesn't survive the campaign. She dies heroically trying to save an NPC's brother, and I don't even get to talk about that because I have so little time. But you know who has the full unabridged lore of Syra? Eldwitched, who has just a beautiful backstory that I've hardly done justice here. So please, I'm begging you, visit the description, check their page and their art out. Let's take a quick breather from that tragic backstory and cleanse our palates with yet another tragic backstory. Actually, I have absolutely no room to complain about this. I act like I didn't make my most beautiful, pure-hearted, golden kobold paladin's backstory incredibly rooted in tragedy, loss, and loneliness. As someone once said, content and happy people rarely leave their lives to go on adventures and hunt dragons. So this piece is for DawnShimmerstar. DawnShimmerstar drew me an adorable thing, and literally a day after I got my revenge friendly fire in, she drew another character for me, a lovely cat in return. And we will see both of these drawings again at the end of today's video, and I'll take a bit more time to appreciate the details then. So let's talk about the eridanimidna that is appearing on the screen before us. Well, okay, I did it again this year. I'm being just the most consistent, and I am once again always forgetting to ask people how to pronounce their character and user names. Mostly I just go in and make a lot of assumption, and I've been pretty lucky, but there are a couple of times where I go back and rewatch a video and wonder what I was thinking when I came up with these character name pronunciations. That being said, I'm gonna go with calling this very pretty birdie Kaylee, but just to be clear, it is spelled K-A-L-I-E, so it might be Kali, it might be Callie, or a fourth more elusive option. At the end of the day, as per usual, I am very, very sorry if I've gotten it wrong. Kaylee is an eridanimidna rogue with the Phantom archetype, and she is our second rogue of today's video. I believe Kaylee has some crow features about her because DawnShimmerstar says that she's very enamored with collecting pretty shiny things. Although this rogue hasn't had her time to shine in a campaign just yet, she does have the outlines of a good tragic backstory. Kaylee is an outcast, banished from her little tribe of eridanimidnas because they believe that she was the cause of a massive tragedy that brought serious harm to the village. Now, here's where we get into my speculation. DawnShimmerstar has been doing her best to not get too involved in the backstory before the campaign has even started, but I do wonder if maybe this tragedy is connected to her Phantom archetype. Phantom rogues have a magical connection with death, being able to hear the voices of the deceased to gather information. They draw life and power from wandering souls, and at high enough levels they can even take on their own spectral form. It just seems very aligned with tragedy and superstition, but again, this is completely my hypothesis. I could be totally wrong. Either way, Kaylee is a very fun character design. I love an eridanimidna. I've never played one personally, but honestly, underrated. Especially a crow rogue themed eridanimidna. I feel like people tend towards Kenku characters for rogues, especially crow rogues, so it's fun to see a little bit of a switch up. But with this speed draw over and before we move on to the next character, I just want to say I really like her little fluffy hair feathers. I think it's a super cute detail. I always feel bad when hair floofs don't translate perfectly into my style. So with Kaylee, and I really hope with any character that I make for other people, I hope I did them justice. I always try not to get too carried away with design changes or interpreting things differently than they are intended, and I'm just doing my best, and I hope people are okay with it. But that being said, this is also DawnShimmerstar's second year of ARTFIGHT. They have a wide range of different types of characters available, so please do check their lovely work out. On to a classic staple of my ARTFIGHT series, drawing a revenge piece for the Honorable IronDuck. IronDuck has these really wonderful and delightfully odd D&D characters in their collection, and also they always make me the most lovely art or crafts every year, including these beautiful Fing dice that we featured in last week's video. We have a very full story that I have no possible way of getting all the details in about, so let's start with the basics of the character. This is Malachi Ambrose, a Grave Domain cleric, and you know I love a cleric. Malachi Ambrose wasn't always called Malachi. At this point in time, his parents called him Sybil Morris Morcelli. Honestly, although it's his dead name, it's still a name he holds very near and dear, since it's the name of his beloved great-great-grandmother Ambrosia Sybil Morcelli. He even took her name Ambrosia for his surname Ambrose. Malachi doesn't exactly live in a normal town, and he wasn't exactly a normal kid growing up. In this town, reanimation by various means is an incredibly common practice. The bodies are brought back by necromancers and morticians and are made whole and undiseased with plant growth or mechanical parts or crystals of some sort, and the bodies are then set out to take care of small menial tasks around town. Malachi was particularly partial to watching his reanimated great-great-grandmother take care of the poisonous flowers in the family garden. At the ripe young age of 23, as an aspiring mortician and embalmer in training, Malachi spent one too many times tasting various poisons just to see what they were like. And he accidentally found out exactly how much poison it would take to take him out. As he succumbed to the poison, his dying wish was to be useful, to be reanimated and sent back to his parents. And when he awoke, he was surprised to find himself incredibly conscious and also fitted with a new chest, something that he had always dreamed of having, sort of. It wasn't exactly a traditional chest, but it was better than the last chest he had by a long shot. It was instead an apothecary chest with shelves and drawers and infinite storage, kind of like a bag of holding. The necromancer and morticians that worked on him, Silver, Octavia, and Testament, informed him that they had tried a new method of reanimation on him, one that allowed him to still have his mind and thoughts about him. Being their greatest experiment to date, they requested that Malachi keep his undead nature and his new features under wraps, and also asked him to help conduct more research for them. And with promised stability for his parents and the freedom to pursue his own passions in his downtime, how could he possibly refuse? And with this speed draw complete, that is the odd yet fantastic story of our boy, Malachi Ambrose. I am just so enamored with the concept as a whole. I love the way that IronDuck takes just a very specific idea and builds an entire character and universe around it. And Malachi is not the exception. Pretty much all of IronDuck's characters are wonderful little oddities you just want to collect and turn over and over in your hands, inspecting and analyzing. As always, much love to IronDuck and their beautiful brain. Please do check out their work. You will not be disappointed. For our second to last piece of this video, I am taking a D&D character from CrowsOfAutumn. CrowsOfAutumn is another returning artist who has always made me the most lovely art, this year with just this stunning Baba Rusalka. And I have great news. If you were here last year with the last time that I drew a character for CrowsOfAutumn, I would just like to inform you all that I did not leave water running. I did not accidentally flood my kitchen whilst drawing this character. I've been getting really good at not flooding my own kitchen, I must say. But on a more serious note, I love CrowsOfAutumn's D&D character concepts. CrowsOfAutumn has such a unique way of bridging the gap between beast and human, and the way that these features tie into individual magic abilities and powers and things like that. Also, they have the most aesthetic and organized Pinterest boards for their characters. All of my Pinterest boards are very chaotic. Even the one I have called aesthetics isn't aesthetic. But allow me to introduce you to Fen, a Gloomstalker ranger. Once again, I've unintentionally picked a character that is purposefully not being fleshed out because there isn't a campaign for him to go into. Alongside scheduling issues and campaigns that are cut early, I think the third curse of D&D players is having too many character ideas and not enough campaigns to play them in. But CrowsOfAutumn was still so kind and willing to share their surface thoughts of this character design with me. Fen is from an isolated village called Kathraki, located in the Ashblade territory, hidden in a large mountain range called the Great Divide. Fen is a half-breed. From his father's side, he is a Vulpine, which is a small, slender, fox-like people that live in the desert below the mountain range. And from his mother's side, he is a Kathrak, a large cat-like people that live in the mountain village in which he was raised. Because of his Vulpine genetics, the other Kathrak viewed him as a runt, despite him being 196 centimeters, or 6'4". However, his more slender figure, knack for stealth, and precise aim make him the perfect hunter, and this has allowed him to earn respect from his peers. From both sides of Fen's heritage, there is a deep connection to the will of the stars. Both Vulpine and Kathrak see the stars as guides and oracles, the keys to the past, present, and future, keepers of history, story and keepers of faith. Fen feels the call of the stars very intensely, more intensely than those around him, and he believes that they guide him to a greater purpose. And that very quickly brings us to the end of the speed draw of Fen the Gloomstalker Ranger. Once again, just a huge thank you to CrowsOfAutumn. I love getting a little insight into character creation and just a small glimpse of the beautiful world building process. CrowsOfAutumn has a bunch of super cool characters that I just never would have been able to think of on my own, and I think y'all should check them out. You know where to find those links. Alright, as one last addition to this chaotic magic heavy D&D party that I'm accidentally creating, we are adding more magic. This time we have a character from ARTFIGHT user AshOrSketch who drew me this very cool painty drawing of my character Cat. I actually have had characters from AshOrSketch bookmarked since last ARTFIGHT because last year, well, first of all, I didn't know I was going on a trip in the first week of July, and AshOrSketch was one of the people that I never got to revenge last year, so I was super glad that they came back this year, and they gave me another excellent excuse to draw their Amethyst Dragonborn Warlock, but not actually Warlock anymore, mostly now a sorcerer, Pinkie Pie. I know, what a crazy introduction, right? So, Pinkie is from a Tomb of Annihilation campaign, which is just where you need a bubbly, optimistic, high-spirited character who somehow managed to get the Order of the Gauntlet to partake in a high-energy aerobic step workout class. Pinkie is a warlock with a pact to the patron, Mr. Grumpy Pants. Oh, actually not Mr. Grumpy Pants, it's actually Hadar, as in the dark and never-ending hunger elder evil Hadar. Although Pinkie lives a life that appears to be full of blindingly bright joy, she too carries a tragic backstory. Years ago, her and her other Amethyst Dragonborn and their Amethyst Dragon ancestors traveled across the realms, and they were unfortunately spotted by Hadar. Hadar latched onto Pinkie, and Pinkie has been feeding Hadar for the last 200 years, and he hungers for more and continues to take and take and take and take. And after so much time passing, Pinkie doesn't know a life separate from Hadar. In a twisted shielding of her mind, she considers Hadar a friend, which has led to this overly bubbly positive outlook on life. All this changes after Pinkie meets the fairy cleric of the party, Silver. Silver and Pinkie bonded deeply, relating to similar past experiences and having aligned morals and goals. However, Silver meets an abrupt ending, and Pinkie is distraught. Pinkie reaches out and for the first time begs Hadar to give instead of take, just this once, and Hadar refuses her request. Silver was eaten. That's hunger, and hunger belongs to Hadar. Pinkie snaps, breaking her pact with Hadar and instead choosing to embrace her innate abilities as a draconic bloodline sorcerer. Over time, she heals. She grows more comfortable as a sorcerer, aiming to become incredibly powerful enough to protect her friends in a way that she couldn't protect Silver. The very last spell that Pinkie cast in the campaign was a level 6 counter spell against the spell Power Word Kill, a success that saves the life of her friend. And that brings us to the end of the extremely abridged version of Pinkie's story. I'm so relieved to have at least one character in this lineup that lives to the end of a fully played out campaign. It's so rare, so beautiful, and I'm so grateful to AshOrSketch for taking the time to share the story, and honestly more parts of the story that I wasn't able to fit into this speed draw. I highly recommend you check out AshOrSketch's ARTFIGHT page. They have a bunch of wonderful characters. It's just all around a good time. But that brings us to the end of the speed draw section of the video. Congrats on your new D&D party. You got 2 rogues, 2 sorcerers, a monk, a ranger, and a cleric. What more could you possibly need? Seriously, these were all an absolute treat to work on. Thank you to all the lovely artists who designed these characters and their contribution to my desire to draw D&D characters. But of course, that is not all, folks. We have 14 new beautiful art pieces received since my last video, so let us take a quick moment to appreciate those gorgeous attacks. For number 1 and 2, we have DawnShimmerstar's art of Fing and Cat. Both of these are just really lovely. Even though DawnShimmerstar has a very different art style from me, there's still so much attention to detail, and I especially love the unique use of lighting in both of these. Thank you so much to DawnShimmerstar. Next up, we have a calliope drawn by the artist MochaWaffle. Look at that clean line work. I just love a thick outline in line art. I think it's such a nice detail. I also love the way her eyes and her hair are rendered, the use of gradients and highlights. It's scrumptious. Thank you so much, MochaWaffle. Number 4, we have another Calliope piece from Mushroomsdragonz, but also featuring Terrapin Art's character Serena. I miss these girls and their little interactions so much. I love seeing the blueberry tiefling with her strawberry cow. It's just so heartwarming. Thank you so much. We also got a few really lovely Lucky art pieces this past week, starting off with this one by Reverie Scenes. I love the way that they portray magic in this piece, and also just the way they went about drawing Lucky in general. Obsessed is an understatement. Thank you so much, Reverie Scenes, for your gorgeous work of my wizard hair. And from nimnum_IE, we got the first V art of the year. Look at her, she looks so cool. And look at how shiny they got the red eyeshadow. It's perfect. I love this piece. Thank you so much to Nimnum. I am so honored to be part of your attack list during your very first year of ARTFIGHT. We also got a lot of cat art this week, starting strong with Katukala's amazing piece. I love the way that they used strong dark line out around the face and clothing and then made the hair and ears look very soft and fluffy. Also, look at those shiny red eyes and the under eye makeup. Ooh, I adore it. Thank you so much. And here we have the previously featured AshOrSketch cat piece. There are so many parts to cat designs, and I'm always so impressed with how people put all the little details like her shiny boots or the little bells into their own art styles. I love everything about this piece. Thank you so much, AshOrSketch. Another one that we saw earlier in the video, CrowsOfAutumn. Oh, I love their art style so much. Y'all are just doing your best to make me think I want to go back to line art. Look at her teeth. She's so spooky, as she should be. I love her so much. Thank you, CrowsOfAutumn. We have another attack with 2 characters, this time done by longtime supporter eridanimidna. She is always one of the first people to like my art and reshare it when I post something on my dead Instagram page. She does such beautifully rendered pieces. They look like softly lit oil paintings. eridanimidna, I love your art style so much. Thank you for taking the time to draw both Calliope and cat. I love it so much. For number 11, we have a piece by Philip of V. I love the pose, the nonchalant expression. I love the hatching and the cheekbones. I also love the deep colors and the use of a textured canvas. Everything about this is so cool, and I'm loving the appreciation that folks are having for V this week. Thank you so much, Philip. Next, we have someone who already attacked me this year and is coming back for more. SheepDundee and this very cool cat art. Inspired by the style of the Dungeon Meshi manga. It is sick. I love halftones so much, and their art looks so cool in this style. Thank you very much for stopping by my page again this year, SheepDundee. And our last 2 images are both pieces featuring Lucky. So we have this first one from Fernandez_1602. Look at the shading and the pose and her intense stare. I love the expression and the way that she's adjusting her glasses so she can judge you harder. It's amazing. It's perfect. Thank you so very much. And lastly, for this week, we have traditional art of Lucky from CosmoTology. I know I've said it before, but there's something so nice about knowing that there's a physical version of my character out there. I love this piece so much. And also these little charms. CosmoTology went to find charms that they thought would suit the character design, and it's just so spot on. Thank you so much, CosmoTology. But that is our last piece of art for this video. Again, I'm overwhelmed and so grateful for the sheer number of art that I've received this year. I am so honored that so many people like my character designs and want to support me in my cozy little corner of the internet. It truly means the world to me. And you know what else? It would also mean the world to the other fantastic artists from today's video if you check them out. Like I said, they're all listed in the description. They're such kind and creative people. You know, between the lot of them, at least one of them is bound to have a character that you want to draw this ARTFIGHT season. Most likely, but as always, who knows? Not me.